You're listening to The Green Flag with your hosts, Lucas Wacker and Kyle Cushman.
Two down, one to go in the round of 12 for the NASCAR Cup Series, and we're coming to you on a Tuesday night for the first time in a long time.
Not when you're listening, so
not when you're listening, but when we're recording this, just for the future of this episode, we are recording this on a Tuesday night as we are approaching Canadian Thanksgiving, and Kyle's heading back to Strath Vegas for the rest of the week, so we will not be able to record later on. So that's why the early episode, but we are still coming to you with some content here and some analysis after a pretty tame Talladega. I don't think we were expecting to say those words whatsoever when we went into the preview last week and what Talladega definitely had in store for us, but after the past couple of weekends with tire failures and all the drama that has been at Bristol and Texas, I think we all needed a little bit of something to slow down the heart rates a little bit, come back down to earth, and actually just watch a good, classic, old-fashioned race with nobody wrecking really. Except 24
you say that as
in.
if the race itself wasn't super intense.
It was super intense, but
slow down the heart rate. Speak for yourself.
Hey, I get so nervous with those super speedway races, but nonetheless, we've got some news and notes to actually kick off the show. We got Alex Bowman news. We didn't actually get to talk about last week because that news broke after we recorded going into Talladega. We've got some colleague racing lineup news, and then Hailie Deegan also has announced some of her future plans here for the short term. That is earlier today. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing today, Kyle?
Yeah, doing good. Excited to talk about some exciting news today in terms of looking ahead to 2023, some young drivers getting opportunities, stuff like that. Obviously, unfortunate the Alex Bowman stuff that we'll get into, but looking forward to today's show and getting into another cutoff race, which Talladega may be a little bit tamer than we were anticipating, just given a lot of different things. But if there's one thing that we know for sure, the Roval is absolute mayhem in terms of points, situations, drivers flipping stages, all that kind of stuff. So looking forward to this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about the points in a bit briefly to just kind of get you set up and teed up for what the Roval should have in store for us. But we also have our Roval draft coming on later on. We're going to take that nice and steady. Hopefully I can get some momentum back on my side after a tough Talladega, but we'll get into that a little later down the road. But let's start off with Alex Bowman. He has been ruled out for the Roval after he suffered a concussion at Texas. He missed Talladega. Noah Gragson filled in for him there. He's going to continue filling in for the number 48 driver at the Roval. So Gragson pulling the double duty once again. And, this is Alex Bowman officially out of the playoffs. We don't have that scenario of him winning you're in at the Roval if he were to come back. It seemed highly unlikely considering what we've seen from Kurt Busch and his longevity of injury that has taken him and sidelined him for most likely the remainder of this season for sure. And Alex Bowman is just another driver that has gone through another health issue with this next gen car and the safety that is surrounding this next gen car and the conversations that will no doubt continue on throughout the next couple of weeks and months going into 2023 as NASCAR looks to address the safety problems. Specifically, it seems to the rear end of the car. They are doing a test this week to test a new rear deck lid and kind of that entire area of the car for a crash damage test. So we'll see what kind of hopeful positive outcome comes out of that test, and we'll see if those changes are implemented or if there's some other things they need to fix in time for 2023. But for Alex Bowman, Kyle, this is obviously a detrimental blow to his entire season. Had a fantastic start to his playoffs after a very tough summer stretch, but he regained his form as he was a very strong contender last year, had a lot of speed, won 4 races. He kind of showed a little bit more of that consistency in the first 3 races in the playoffs, but his playoffs come to an abrupt end after missing out on Talladega and the Roval. So difficult situation for Bowman.
Yeah, it's really tough to see. And obviously, first and foremost, thoughts are with him and hope that
absolutely
things aren't too bad and that he's on the road to recovery. Of course, you think of Kurt Busch and his situation, but it's also important to remember that no 2 concussions are the same. No 2 concussion recoveries are the same. For all we know, Kurt Busch could be back in a car next week. Alex Bowman could be back in a car next week. They could both be out until the start of the 2023 season. We don't really know. And these things are very tricky to get a handle of because of how difficult it is to track the progress of a concussion and recovery and all that kind of stuff. So hope that Bowman is on the right path here, along with Kurt Busch, of course. But in the short term, it's obviously a big blow to Alex Bowman and to Hendrick Motorsports to not even have a shot to make it through to the round of 8 with the 48 team. We've talked about the 48 team quite a bit in terms of being a team that has struggles this year, is going to have some changes into next season with Greg Ives stepping down as crew chief and moving into a management role, and some changes happening there. And so it's unfortunate to see this team not be able to at least attempt to get through to the next round with its own driver through Talladega and the Roval. They were in a tough spot to try and make it through in the first place. And obviously with Bowman's absence from these two races, it confirms that he'll be eliminated from the Drivers' Championship. We'll see how things go. If Gregson's able to do anything to get them through in the owner side of things, I think that's pretty unlikely when you look at the amount of contenders and stuff like that. But hopefully we see Bowman back in a car soon, because obviously you don't want to see any type of injury concerns, anything like that, but especially concussion stuff with how serious, how tricky those are in terms of injuries. And so it's good to see Gregson get these opportunities at the very least. He's signed on to be Hendrick's replacement driver, reserve driver, whatever you want to say. Would have been cool to see some different driver get an opportunity or something like that, some road course ringer, and have a real throwback there. But contracts are contracts, and it's a great opportunity for Gregson to kind of show what he can do with a really good program on a road course. So hope Bowman is back soon. Hope Kurt Busch is back soon. And the rear deck lid stuff is got to change quickly, because as we've heard from plenty of people, especially recently, these hits are way too aggressive, way too severe when you back it into the wall. And we've seen two playoff drivers now essentially eliminated from the playoffs due to injuries directly related to those kind of crashes.
Yeah, we saw for the first time, really, the onboard stuff from the broadcast this past weekend of showing Bowman and just how much he could feel the effects from that wreck at Texas, and just the in-car camera of his facial expression. I mean, you could see it written all over him, how much pain he was in. And then, of course, later in the week, he wasn't feeling any better or getting worse. And he decided to take the very mature approach, and, not an easy thing to do for anybody to step aside in a situation like this when you're fighting for a championship and you think that you have a legit shot at advancing to the next round. But it was always going to be tough for Bowman, even if he was to race at Talladega and didn't have any symptoms or didn't have a concussion. Excuse me. But, we're wishing him all the best. And, we're seeing this discussion throughout sports right now, specifically, in the NFL with Tua Tagovailoa with the Dolphins. And obviously, like you said, no concussion is the exact same, but it is, a little bit of a parallel, the discussion that we're having. And at least I feel like NASCAR and specifically Alex Bowman are taking it into their own hands a little bit here. And they're taking a step back and deciding that their health is the number one priority. Not to say that, Tua did or didn't do. We're not going to speculate on anything regarding that, but just this, it feels like it was just kind of a storm of concussion discussion that we've had over the past couple of weeks here in professional sports that we follow pretty heavily. So Alex Bowman, serious contender, it seemed, going into Talladega if he was able to race, but unfortunately his playoff hopes are dusted after not being able to run this weekend at the Roval. And this is a track that he's always run pretty decent at, no matter what car or what package. He's always been up at the front, being pretty competitive at this track. So it is unfortunate that Bowman will be out this weekend, and we're hoping that he's back sooner rather than later. So anything else you want to touch on with Alex Bowman before we move into the next one?
Yeah, nothing too much. I will say I disagree a bit on the concussion stuff. I think it's two very different situations in terms of how the two sports are able to handle concussions. And
absolutely.
The NFL being a league where this has been a serious topic for many years and has been documented, and they have certain protocols that should be followed, versus NASCAR, where it's a very different situation when you look at not being able to test people in cars if the car's still able to roll, all those kind of things. So I've just seen that a little bit, and I think that's a bit of a discussion point that's a bit off basis. Just because two injuries are the same listed as concussion doesn't mean that it's the same situation. So that's just the only thing to add to that.
No, I think it's a good point. I think it's just an important discussion to have no matter what sport. And I think we're getting to a point where it's becoming easier to talk about some of these issues and how we can approach a better fix, or what we can do to make sure that people go through the right protocols, or, there's a system in place where players feel comfortable, athletes feel comfortable to, take that step back, or if they feel like they are in a safe space that they can go back out there on their respective playing surface. Just wanted to bring that up overall, because it is it is a very serious injury. It cannot be downplayed. So I'm very, thankful that Alex Bowman has able to, and Kurt Busch. Let's not forget about Kurt. They are
the two situations are different. Kurt Busch failed the concussion test. Alex Bowman took himself out. Those are two pretty significant differences.
Fair enough. Kurt Busch is, he's not 100%. He's not cleared to race. Obviously, that's the
difference. Kurt Busch wasn't cleared to race. That's why he was taken out of the car. Essentially, NASCAR parked him for failing the medical test after his crash. The difference is that Alex Bowman didn't have to go to the infield care center after his crash because his car was still rolling. He continued in the race. So he didn't have to do that post concussion test or anything like that, which is why 2 days later, when he tried to do I think it was the sprint car test or whatever with his sprint car team, and he felt the effects, he went and got a test or told the team that he wasn't feeling well. They do the concussion test, all those kind of things. So again, similar to how the Bowman Tua stuff is wildly different scenarios, even though it's two race car drivers, similar crashes, all those kind of things, two very different situations, because one driver was told by NASCAR he can't race. The other one was essentially told them that he can't race.
Yeah. And I think that they're doing the right thing by taking their time to come back now too. They're not trying to rush the process. You can't rush a concussion recovery.
Well, you have to get clearance.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just like, Kurt Busch is doing everything in his power to get better each and every day. And we're seeing that, I think what he's been doing on social media has been fantastic. And in terms of just, shedding a light a little bit on the behind the scenes aspect of the recovery. So I just wanted to mention that and Bowman and all that stuff. But moving on from Bowman, there is it's not official, but it is going to happen. AJ Allmendinger will be returning to the NASCAR Cup Series to drive for Colleague Racing full time. 2018 was the last time he was full time in the Cup Series, and that was for JTG Doherty Racing. But he's going to make that step up. We've heard for a couple of years now that he's run full-time in Xfinity, how happy he is down there. He's been doing so well, championship contender every single year. And it seems like he's set to do that once again this year after a very impressive win at Talladega. So kudos to him there. But AJ Allmendinger going to be taking a full-time spot. Colleague will officially announce their Cup Series and Xfinity Series driver lineup on Wednesday morning. Of course, we're recording this on Tuesday night, so we don't know that officially, but there is some speculation on some guys that could be out there, so that could be taking some spots for Colleague, but we can talk about that next week when it's become official. So AJ Allmendinger making the step up, the road course ringer himself. He's had a Cup Series win for Colleague last year at the Indianapolis road course, of course. Of course. So you can expect good things from him on that specific track type, but he's no slouch overall. I think he's definitely refined his oval track abilities over the course of his Xfinity Series tenure so far. And, not to say that the two cars are comparable whatsoever, but I expect AJ Allmendinger to do a pretty decent job at trying to give some good information to the team back, a veteran driver to try and assist whoever's in that 31 car, who maybe Justin Haley. If it's not somebody else, that most likely will be able to, it'll be probably Justin Haley. But those two father-son duo that became so infamous in the Xfinity Series is going to reunite in the Cup Series in 2023. So what do you make of AJ Allmendinger moving back to the Cup Series? Do you think this is the right decision, or do you think he maybe should have kind of continued his impressive form and championship abilities in the Xfinity Series?
Yeah, this is a bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, and a bit of a weird situation overall for Colleague. If AJ had any kind of interest in doing the Cup Series stuff again, I don't understand why they didn't do it this year on a full-time basis and get that information or anything like that, try and go for a playoff spot with a road course win and do it right out of the gate. I don't really understand why you would have Justin Haley be the full-time guy. For year one, have AJ do a few races in the part-time car, and kind of have that split and return to the Xfinity series for another year. So that kind of split seems weird to me. It kind of feels to me like colleague kind of saw how things went this year with the car and whether they think that they've got a legit shot at making the playoffs or AJ's interested in or whatever it is. I think it's great to see Allmendinger back in the Cup Series because he's a Cup Series level driver, in my opinion. When you look at his road course prowess and him kind of rounding into his own on different track types, I think he's absolutely a playoff threat, either in terms of winning, less so in terms of pointing his way through. But he could absolutely win any of those 5 road courses in the regular season. And we saw last year he won Indy as well. So, but yeah, this is a bit of a strange one in terms of I don't know why they wouldn't just have him full-time in the car this year already. I don't know why they waited a year to have him full-time in the car, but seems like some stuff figured out behind the scenes where colleague maybe had to convince Allmendinger that this was the right move for the team or anything like that. We've heard AJ say multiple times that he'll do whatever's best for the team, that kind of stuff. And just from that perspective, absolutely the right move for the team because this is their best driver, best candidate to go out and make the playoffs. So from a competitive standpoint, absolutely love seeing it. I think we could see some really good runs from the 16 team next year in the Cup Series. I don't think there'll be a team that contends for a playoff spot on points. I think that they will have to win a road course. AJ's had a couple of good runs in the Cup Series at Gateway, Bristol, but the rest of the track types I still have some questions about. But I'm excited to see how they do and how Colleague does in general with a young driver with one season under his belt, kind of quietly having a solid season, and then a veteran coming back in looking to win a race and go to the playoffs and kind of rejuvenate his Cup Series career. So excited to see that duo in the Cup Series next year for sure. And then obviously tomorrow morning, obviously when you're listening to this, you'll probably know what the lineup is already, but very interested to see what they do on the Xfinity side as well with kind of their title contender of the last couple of years moving on to Cup.
Yeah, I wonder, just speculation, like how much input, AJ had in saying, to your point, like, why wouldn't you put him up to the Cup Series this year instead of Justin Haley, for example, right?
Well, I wonder if not necessarily instead of, I think why not just
in addition to? Yeah. I wonder how much input he had in terms of like wanting to go back and try and get that Xfinity Series title again this year after having such a good year last year, so much in contention. It was him. I
agree with that to an extent, but like he hasn't won the championship this year either yet. So like if he goes out and wins it, then absolutely I can see that, but I don't really get why he would then do it in the middle of trying to go for another championship as well, if that's his reasoning. I could see that being the reasoning, but
yeah, I just wondering out loud is essentially like, because he was so close, he was so good, and then Phoenix isn't quite the track type that he excels at by any means, so it's going to be a hard challenge for him no matter what circumstance in the Xfinity Series to go out there and win the title if he makes it to the championship four again, no matter what year it is, if it's this year or last year, whatever the case may be. But, he's had a tremendous season once again this year. He's locked into the round of 8, so he can focus. He can kind of not worry about the Roval, but you expect him to contend again this weekend.
Well, I think because of that circumstance, I think he's going to be the favorite because he can flip the stages and not need to worry about it.
Yeah. But Allmendinger is I agree with you 100% that he is a Cup Series level driver. And, he showed glimpses of it with JTG. Of course, he won the Watkins Glen race in 2014.
I was going to say he had some pretty solid years.
Yeah. Like, he obviously raced at Team Penske there in the 22 car as well. Like, it was just a matter of consistency and putting it all together. Just didn't quite have the equipment at JTG, and then as well, was a little bit tempered at Penske, and I think he's matured quite a bit over the past couple of years in colleague racing. Has really molded him into a fantastic overall race car driver. And it's hard for people to not root for him, considering how much emotion he has after races. He's one of the most enthusiastic guys. The passion that he has for winning a race or any sort of competition is it's really fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do at a Cup Series level full time. I'm curious to see how much he has improved, or if any, if you can definitively see that on on the ovals, if we can see that, some of that speed or some of that skill that he's been able to finesse on the Xfinity Series.
We have a sample this year. Like, it's not like he's going in blind. No. And we've kind of seen it, and it's kind of been a lot of the same, where he's had some good runs on the shorter ovals. They've had some concerns on the bigger tracks when they've kind of gone for that. Granted, he hasn't done any like true mile-and-a-half stuff, I don't think. Like, the closest we've seen is like Nashville, I think, and then like Phoenix, Dover, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. But the Gateway, he had a top 10. Bristol, he had a top 10, and then everything else has kind of been road courses or not too great. And so that's kind of what it was before as well. We'll see if that changes. I don't really expect it to, but we'll see how Colleague overall does in terms of their quality, especially going into next year.
I wonder if missing out on Kyle Busch potentially changed their plans for next year at all. Just putting it out there.
If, I think AJ was probably always their guy if they didn't land a big fish free agent. If this is the move that they ended up going with. So I think it was basically a case of, let's see if we can get the biggest name we can. And if we can't, I think it was always going to be AJ. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. But AJ going to be a fun guy to watch. Fun guy next year in the Cup Series. And we'll see what happens with Colleagues. Rest of their lineup, Chandler Smith is reportedly going to that Xfinity Series program.
No, not reportedly, but
could be. Rumors are that he
I
could
haven't
be
seen
going
it reported anywhere. So.
Okay. Rumors are that Chandler Smith could be going to college.
I'm a news editor now. There's a big difference between somebody reporting something and somebody saying this guy followed 3 people. So
I'm reporting it. That's my report.
Okay, you can go ahead with that.
My sources, my inside sources. Anything else with Allmendinger before we move on to the last little bit there?
Nope.
All righty. Hailie Deegan has announced her 2022 plan of racing in the
an incredibly strange way to go about it, but okay.
Yeah, she's making her Xfinity Series debut at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks' time. She will drive the number 07 for Greenlight Racing in the Ford machine that we have seen Cole Custer run a handful of times this year. He won at Fontana, didn't he? Yep. So this is obviously a Stewart-Haas Racing Alliance with the 98 team and that organization. So you can expect Hailie Deegan to potentially, show a little bit more than she has in the Truck Series this year. 21st in points right now. Hasn't been too great. She had her season best finish this past weekend at Talladega, finishing 6th. So not bad there. At least she's going into Las Vegas with a little bit of positive momentum, because they will not be racing until Homestead. So that will be her next NASCAR sanctioned race at Las Vegas. So I'm curious to see how she does, because she was pretty damn solid in the ARCA series and all.
She was all right in ARCA, I wouldn't say.
I think, she did enough to earn obviously a Truck Series ride, but yes, it's definitely leveled out since then. She's had some bad luck, but the results haven't been there on a consistent enough basis where she's kind of finding herself in the middle of the pack, where trouble usually lies on the Truck Series side of things. Not just on the Truck Series, but a lot of different levels. Xfinity Series, Cup Series. There's no real safe spot there in the teens in the early 20s, but she's definitely had some hardship this year with crashing out a lot, 6 DNFs. So she's had her fair share of trips to the infield care center, unfortunately, but Hailie Deegan is a driver that has done pretty decent on the oval stuff. So, and she thinks that that's where she can excel based off of her comments today. So seems like a perfect time to go to Las Vegas. I believe, she's from Vegas, is she not? Or she's from California?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they're based out of California.
California, but she's going back west and making her Cup Xfinity Series debut. So what are your expectations for her, Kyle? This is a driver that we, talked about a lot when we were doing the show previously, and we were really, excited to see what kind of progress she would do. But then this year it's kind of really leveled out on that, and she hasn't really made too much headway on what we were thinking.
Yeah, if you're going into Vegas with any kind of expectations for a driver making their debut in those kind of circumstances, I think you're doing it wrong. The expectation for Deegan is to gain experience, and that's by getting laps. This is not about getting a top 10, getting a top 15, getting a top 20, anything like that. This is about her getting experience in a new car, in a longer race, and seeing what she can do. The David Gillen Racing Truck Series stuff has been really strange to me over the last couple of years when you look at how kind of mediocre Tanner Gray and Haley Deegan's results have been versus Ryan Preece, who's consistently gotten in that truck and succeeded. But then other people like Harrison Burton's had some mediocre results. Taylor Gray, who's one of the bright young prospects coming up, has had a couple good runs, but other than that has kind of been in a similar boat to Deegan and his brother. So I'm really interested to see how she runs, but I don't have any kind of expectations for her going into this race. This race is about getting experience. And we've seen drivers before that just can't come to grips with the Truck Series, go into the Xfinity, go into Xfinity and have success. I think Harrison Burton is the best example of that, where he was a good Truck Series driver. Like, he had multiple top fives. This isn't like a Deegan situation where he was outside the top 20 in points or anything like that. But when you look at his Truck Series results, which were good but fairly unremarkable, and
compared
his first
to who was
season
previous to him too in that truck. I mean,
exactly. And then he stepped into the Xfinity Series and was a multi-time winner with Joe Gibbs Racing, essentially in the first handful of weeks that he was in that car. So again, that's not to say those are the expectations for Deegan or anything like that, or or saying that is an excuse for lack of results in the Truck Series. But this is a Ford prospect who, for lots of different reasons, has a lot of expectations. It has a lot of sponsorship behind her, has a lot of eyeballs on her, and so she'll get these opportunities. And if anyone's going to complain about it, I think it's completely misplaced, because if you look at the driver that's been in that car all season long, and Joe Graff Jr., that is the definition of a pay driver who's had underwhelming results every place he's gone. This is a driver that DNQ'd an RCR car back in the day. So I think any complaints about Deegan getting this opportunity are completely misplaced. She's a Ford prospect. She's going to a Ford team in Xfinity to gain experience. And this is exactly how Ford should be handling her development. She has a couple of years under her belt now in the Truck Series. Things have kind of not gone to plan in terms of getting wrecked out. I think a lot of their plan for her and development was kind of taking it easy, finish races, gain that experience. And in the Truck Series, the chaos that has been, doing that usually means being around some arguably reckless drivers and getting caught up in some other stuff. And so I think going to the Xfinity Series, trying it out at Vegas when she doesn't have any other Truck Series stuff to worry about, is a great move. And I'm really excited to see kind of how it goes. And if she can come to grips with that car, if she can finish the race, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Finishing all the laps, and kind of see where that goes into next year. If the 07 car becomes a satellite Xfinity Series team and goes full time with a Ford prospect, anything like that. Obviously, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but there's going to be a lot of movement in the lower series because of Kyle Busch's move to Chevrolet into RCR. And I'm fascinated to see how it plays out at the Xfinity and Truck Series levels. And I think this Deegan one race deal in the Xfinity Series is kind of the start of, I think, of a lot of different moves we're going to see in the lower levels over the coming weeks.
I think you nailed it right there, Kyle. You hit it right on the head. That was pretty good. Not much for me to add in terms of that. I think, you answered it right off the top exactly how I would have said it. There's no expectations for her.
There shouldn't be
coming, and I'm just personally excited.
Sorry to interrupt, but there should be one expectation, and that's finish all the laps.
Yes,
that's all.
Apart from that, just take it easy, learn the car, limited practice as we've seen throughout this entire season. So you're not going to get too much of a feel with it. Take your time, go in the sim, take whatever opportunity can present you to go in there as prepared as you can. I'm sure she will. This is a huge opportunity for her. She has to make the most of it at the end of the day. Just see, that there are signs that this could be a viable option for her if, the Truck Series program goes away, or if they decide to go in a different direction, whatever the case may be. We'll see that in the off season, because her 2023 plans are not set as of yet. So, maybe I maybe could expect her to maybe do one more race in the Xfinity car maybe this year after Vegas potentially.
But what options do you have then though?
I don't know.
Unless she's doing Martinsville, which maybe we could see
I could see it.
I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
I don't know what kind of driver lineup they have though for that car yet. I don't know if they're fully filled out for the rest of the year, because that seems like one of the best. Well,
it would just
options.
be Joe Graff, because any of the Cup guys can't come down.
No.
So I don't think it makes any sense to double her up for a weekend. I think, for the most part,
they are doing a double up for Martinsville. There's no truck race this year.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, that's what I meant. I mean, like at Homestead or Phoenix, I don't think it makes sense to double
100%
up like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, that's what I meant. But yeah, like if things go well and they want to try it out at Martinsville again, I don't see why not.
Yep. And I'm hoping for the best. I really hope she can bring the car
for any
home.
driver, you hope for the best, right?
Obviously. But, this is a driver, and, it's great to see some female representation. We've talked about that plenty of times on this show. And
speaking of Julia Landauer, I saw is getting another race. Where is that this weekend, or?
I didn't quite check it out. But
I can't remember what race it is, but she's getting another run, which is great to see.
Fun fact about Julie, she was on Survivor.
Oh my God. That's a fun tidbit, but she's doing Homestead. So how
do you like them apples? Huh?
Hey, good on you. Good on you.
Little trick up the sleeve, just a little talking point, but
you baited me into that one.
Ooh, baby, that was good. Hook, line, and sinker. But Hailie Deegan, we'll see what she can do at Las Vegas. Really, really excited. I would love to see her get like a top 15 if she could, but it's going to be, obviously very difficult considering it's a mile and a half, first time in a car like this. Expectations should not be set other than finishing the laps, as we've said. So anything else you want to touch on with Hailie Deegan before we tee up the Roval?
Not too much, just that I think obviously she's a bit of a polarizing figure in terms of the fan base. I feel like there's a lot of people that obviously support her, like what she's doing. I think there's a lot of people that also don't like her for a lot of the reasons why she's liked. And I think overall, her being successful would be great for the sport in terms of having somebody that is very social media savvy, somebody that can bring a different audience to NASCAR. So it would be great to see her successful, but at the same time, like we saw for many years with Danica Patrick, if you don't have success, then somebody else should get that ride. And so we haven't seen it quite to this point. We saw her do very well in ARCA West, I think it was, or K&N West, whatever it was technically called at that time. She didn't have great results in main ARCA, but that was also a grid that was pretty split in terms of a couple cars being better than the rest of the field, a couple cars being decent, and then everybody else that shows up. And Truck Series being a bit of a mixed bag, and a mixed bag leaning to the bad side at this point. So she's kind of done each rung of the ladder. Now it's time to show what you got in Xfinity coming up, probably for sure, obviously at Vegas for her debut, but then at least some more races next year, if not full time. We'll see what happens with that. And then at that point, it's put up or shut up time. Really hope things go well at Vegas, because a successful Hailie Deegan is a really good thing for NASCAR, I think, overall. Yeah,
and successful.
There we go.
Whew, oh boy. Las Vegas.
Long day.
Will hopefully lead to more opportunities here in the future. If she can start off hot like that, come out of the gates with a very impressive run that catches some people's attention, can only do good things for her in the future here, stating the obvious, but she's definitely somebody that has a lot of people's attention going into that Xfinity Series debut. So let's tee up the Roval, the round of 12 finale. we got one guy, finally, a playoff guy, won a playoff race. And Chase Elliott is the guy that does not have to worry about the Roval this week. Not to say that I don't think he was too worried going into it, no matter what happened at Talladega, considering his previous results at the Roval. But it's still nice to have that cushion and not having to worry about it. And you can start preparing for Las Vegas as you try and go and fight for a championship this year. Ryan Blaney sitting in a very comfortable spot, plus 32. Ross Chastain, plus 28. Denny Hamlin, plus 21. Joey Logano, plus 18. Had a bit of a tough weekend at Talladega after kind of riding in the back, hoping for a big one. Never came, and he ended up losing a lot of points because of that. He came into Talladega as well as the highest seed on points, so he's definitely dropped down the running order a fair bit. Larson, plus 18 as well. Daniel Suarez at plus 12, and then it's a big drop to Chase Briscoe, the last guy in on points via tiebreaker, plus 0. So 0 points above the cutoff line. Austin Cindric just below it, but Briscoe has that tiebreaker. William Byron, minus 11. Christopher Bell, a lonely minus 33. And Alex Bowman, of course, is not going to be a factor being out this weekend with Noah Gragson filling in. So going into the Roval here, Kyle, what are your initial thoughts after Talladega? And what are you hoping to see, or who do you think could be potentially in danger here? And who do you like potentially to maybe upset the field a little bit here, whether that's below the cutoff line or near the cutoff line? Who do you think maybe could surprise going into Charlotte?
Yeah, I was a bit surprised kind of how spread out the playoff grid is when you look at only one driver being above the cutoff line, less than 12 points up, and that's somebody that's right on the cut line. So just in terms of raw points, unless somebody has an issue, it kind of looks like one spot is up for grabs. And obviously, the jumbling up of the playoff grid is affected by one driver not being in it, of course. So it's only 3 drivers contending below the cut line. Christopher Bell needs to go for a win, and we haven't seen race winning speed out of Toyotas on road courses so far this season. So that's going to be a long shot. And then you look at Byron Cindric, and those are 2 guys that could definitely go out and do it. And obviously we don't know the outcome of the Byron appeal and stuff like that could mix things up as well. But yeah, I was expecting
what
things
if he
to
got
be
that appeal though? What if they took it away? Or if
they wouldn't take it away. I think it would be lessening of points.
Man, imagine if it's like 10-point deduction and he's minus 1. Wow. That would really spice it up.
My guess is if anything happens, it'll be 5 points to 20. Because that I think would have been the like rough amount of points that they would have lost if they were held for a lap, I think it was, or for 2 laps. And I think 25 is
any
slightly
deduction
more.
If they can get it,
so
will be helpful.
Exactly. So I was expecting things to be set up for a little bit more chaos in terms of the cut line, with more drivers being close to the cut line. But Talladega went fairly smoothly for a lot of these drivers. So it's a situation where if you have a smooth race at the Roval, you are probably in a good spot. A lot easier said than done. We'll see how things play out. But yeah, I was expecting things to be a little bit more chaotic at the line.
I'm expecting chaos this weekend. That's not a hot take. Like I think the setup for the crew chiefs is going to be tremendously difficult this weekend when you consider the infield portion of the track and that rear diffuser going onto the banking in the corners. I think there's going to be a big problem with trying to get that thing up out of the air while still maintaining rear downforce. I'm no engineering expert by any means, but from what I've seen so far this season and how low you need that thing to be to create maximum amount of downforce and overall speed, it's going to be a tall task for these crew chiefs to try and find that perfect balance where it's not dragging in the corners and you're losing overall performance by just scraping the ground and losing bits or losing aerodynamic pieces underneath. I think it's going to be really tough. Going to be a really tough task for all of the teams to try and nail this. And that's why I think we could see mechanical failures once again this weekend. This is another track that we have not been to. We've done some testing, of course, when we were doing the next gen stuff at the end of last year, but other than that, if
anything, this might be the track they have the most experience at.
Maybe, but like no racing.
I know, I'm kidding.
Holy smokes. But this is going to be a tough race for these guys. And from what we've seen on road courses, that first turn has presented a lot of issues, specifically the Indy road course. Large comparisons can be drawn to the Charlotte Roval with that kind of a first turn.
Yes and no.
A little slower, obviously, for the Indy road course. You have to carry a little bit more speed through the Charlotte Roval one, but the breaking point of finding it is always the
breaking
difficult part.
point is one thing. The Indy road course, the problem there is that you can go like 6 wide. You can't really
it goes
go
into 2 wide.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't really get that kind of congestion.
It's too short of a restart box
in the restart window, but also just in terms of the track width, like it doesn't really work for that. So obviously we'll see some chaos in that first corner. But I don't think we'll see any of the stupidity that we saw in Indianapolis or anything like that.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, yeah, if we see anything, I think it'll be some silliness in that final chicane with some.
Do you think we'll see any retaliation this weekend?
Not really, given the situation that a lot of the drivers are in.
Yeah.
I think retaliation and stuff is something we'll see if a driver is eliminated or in a bad spot and they're kind of like, okay, I'm done running for myself. It's time to go get a receipt, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. If it, man, if Chastain was closer to the bubble, I would be more nervous, but plus 28 is a pretty decent cushion. And considering how,
I just don't see why they would do it right now.
Makes sense as well.
You could recommend.
I think Hamlin's going to have his own issues this weekend to worry about with the road course pace. With what we
I think plus 21, he's okay, but yeah,
like that was the crazy thing about Talladega. If one of those playoff guys that are higher up in points had an issue, they would have been like 37th. There was a lot of cars finishing at the end of that race. One issue, man. And we usually see it. At least one guy has that. One driver. Like, it's just the odds that we've seen in the playoffs, not just this year, but in years prior. Mm-hmm. And we did not get that this weekend. And it sets up for a fascinating Roval, whether you have to take yourself out of contention almost this weekend than anything to not advance. You have to do something really bad.
I agree.
To not do it. It's not necessarily you're being in a bad position where you're trying to gain points. It's just a matter of keeping them. So I'm very curious to see. Don't beat yourself. And we've seen some drivers do that on many occasions so far this season. So I don't know. I'm thankful I don't have to worry about the stress anymore about the playoffs from a fan perspective. But as a fan of the entire, yes.
You're glad.
No, I kind of miss it. I think Blaney's in obviously a fantastic spot considering his speed overall around road courses. Yeah.
The guy who's not locked in, but highest in points.
I know when it comes a little hot and spicy. I think Christopher Bell's going to be in a tough situation as well this weekend. Just a hot take there as well.
Hey, I'm going to go out on a limb on this next one. Okay, you ready for this? We're getting spicy. Yep. I think Alex Bowman's going to be eliminated. I know.
I didn't see that one coming.
We might have to cut that out in post. It might be too much.
I got one more. I think Chase Elliott advances to the round of 8.
Come on. Don't say stupid stuff like that. Come on.
It's a tough one. Anybody you got your eye on this weekend, Kyle, that potentially is above the cutoff line that could fall below it? And what guy below the cutoff line do you think has the best chance of advancing above it?
I think you said it earlier. I think the name to watch is Denny Hamlin, and it's less about his talents or anything like that, but Toyota has shown no speed on road courses so far this season. If you look, just accumulating all the points so far this season on road courses and sort from the best to the worst, there isn't a single Toyota driver in the top 10 of points accumulated on road courses this season, and that's Christopher Bell of all people at 128 points over the 5 road course races. You got to go all the way down to 21st to find Denny Hamlin with 100 points on the nose at road courses so far this season. No top 10s. So if he just holds his own and has days like he did at COTA, at Road America, at Watkins Glen, at Indianapolis as well, where he just picks up a handful of points, picks up 15 to 30 points, something in that range, has a decent day, I think he'll be perfectly fine. If they have an issue like they did at Sonoma and they pick up a handful of points and are at the back and finish because of a mechanical issue, a crash, whatever it is, I think they could be in some trouble. Because on the flip side, when you look at the drivers that are at that cut line, Chase Briscoe all season long has gone for stage points on the road courses. I was actually surprised to see that he doesn't have a top 10 this year at road courses, which is shocking to me. But they've gone out and got points.
Yeah, I was going to
That's all
say,
that
I don't think that he's done anything to necessarily take him out of a race win, because I wouldn't say that he's right there in that top 3. I think he's like a 6th place car, what we've seen on speed, but
Thereabouts.
for getting the points, that's the most important thing for that
they
team.
haven't gone for
and
the win.
Stage wins. Like they needed those playoff points.
Yep, that's what they were going for, and that strategy worked for them in the regular season.
Yeah.
Do they apply that same strategy this weekend? Do they go for the race win?
Point.
They're going to be a fun team to watch this weekend in terms of what they do for the strategy, as is Austin Cindric, who has been one of the best road course racers so far this season. Most consistent, going out, getting good finishes, in addition to a handful of stage points. I think they're a shoo-in to jump over that cut line, certainly over Chase Briscoe, maybe even higher if other people have issues. I really like Cindric going into this weekend. And then you've got William Byron there, who's had issues on road courses this season. But we're talking about Hendrick Motorsports, which is the team to beat on road courses. Obviously, Trackhouse has had their fair share of good results so far this season. But looking over the last handful of years, the team to beat on road courses has been that Hendrick Motorsports.
9-5.
If you've got one car below the cut line, obviously excluding Bowman for different circumstances, but if you've got one car below in the cut line there in William Byron, I imagine they're going to be putting quite a bit of resources into figuring out what to do for that 24 car. So there's 2 cars below the cut line, 1 car at the cut line that are all big threats to get some big points days. So I think all the people 7th and up are going to be safe if they have good days, and have solid days. If they finish the race, get a decent amount of points, but any issues, don't get stage points, finish at the back, have a wreck, be in some trouble, because I think there's some really formidable guys at that cut line.
Yeah, I agree. The pressure behind is going to be no joke for these guys above the cutoff line. If I'm looking at 2 names above, it's Hamlin, 100%, because of Toyota's lack of speed, and he's prone to mistakes, and that team is prone to mistakes. So, and then as well as Daniel Suarez, I know he won on a road course at Sonoma. You know, I'm not saying anything against Suarez, but I don't know if the Roval's quite like his track. It's a very niche, obviously, track that doesn't apply to, all the road courses. Sometimes the more traditional road courses fit drivers' driving styles a little bit better. I don't know if this is quite up Suarez's alley, but I think just because he's in like that kind of next vulnerable position at plus 12, that if he can't score stage points, if he has a bad qualifying or something along those lines where they can't quite max it out and they have trouble with the setup, or if he gets caught up in something, I know that can be any driver, but Suarez is in a very vulnerable position at just plus 12 when he's that next guy, and Briscoe is pretty darn good at scoring points, but then the guys above him, I don't know if they're as characteristically prone to mistakes as what some maybe Suarez could be in that situation. So, he's ran 3 races here at the Roval in the last 3. He's got an average finish of 24th. So it's, that is including, I believe, Gaunt Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless,
finished 13th last year, but
I don't know if he doesn't score stage points, I don't know if that will get it done for him if he finishes 13th with no stage points. Right. I think it'll be pretty close when you look at Cindric. I think he'll score stage points, and I think he'll be up there. And don't count out Byron, because I think that he could be up there as well, getting some. I think they're going to go heavy on stage points.
If he finishes in the top 15, I think he's got to feel pretty safe, because he's plus 12, he's 7th, so 2 people have to pass him, which means that one of Briscoe or Cindric has to get 12 points on him, or has to get 13 points on him essentially, and Byron has to get like 23 points on him. So you got to have a really tough day to kind of have that happen. I mean, we could see Briscoe and Cindric both go out there and play the strategy well. I think the stage points will be there for Suarez, because I think we're going to see a lot of people. I think they'll go for it
too. I think they almost have to in a way.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that flip the stage, because I think there's a lot of drivers there that don't necessarily need to worry about the cut line as much and can go out there and try to get the win and stuff like that. So I think the stage points will be up for those kind of drivers. But yeah, no, it's a good point that he hasn't had a top 10 so far in his career at this track. And if they have a decent day, but nothing remarkable, yeah, you mentioned it, they're there plus 12. They're the lowest one to the cut line other than Briscoe.
I think if you're in position to get top 5 stage points, you go for it. If you don't, you punt. That's how I look at it. depending on your situation. Because I don't
know. I think a lot of the front runners are gonna flip the stages.
Yeah, I agree. Try and get that track position for the end, get the overall best. But if you're in top 5, I think you go for the stage points. Beyond that, I don't know if it's worth your while to try and get maybe 2 or 3 points in the stages when you may be sacrificing even more than that with some of the other bigger names or the guys that are more comfortable in points likely flipping the stages as well. But that's just my opinion. So should be fascinating to see what happens going into the Roval. Shall we get into the draft, Mr. Cushman?
Let's do it.
All righty. I mean, I wanted to play it a little safer last week with our draft at Talladega because I was expecting some wrecks.
Safer? The hell are you talking about? Your lineup wasn't safe.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
You had Kyle Busch in there, Justin Haley, Chris Buescher. I wouldn't call that a safe lineup. I'd say that's an aggressive lineup.
I call that hoping for I saw them riding in the back or trying to outthink Talladega. That's a really stupid thing.
You outthought Talladega.
I think I outthought myself about Talladega. Yeah. So, but I was thinking like who could be there at the finish instead of maybe getting the stage points and might be there to get me a nice 35-point day or something like that. Maybe.
Well, only one of those got you 35 plus points. So
yeah. So it was a really tough day once again, but even more embarrassingly, in our actual fantasy.
Well, I wasn't going to bring this up, but
I'm going to because I'm not going to hide anything. I'm going to bask in my glory when I win, and when it's the low of lows, it's really low. Do you want to tell it because you're the one that?
Sure. I was a dumbass and forgot that I have to set my lineup each week in the app, so I forgot to do that for our season long
2 p.m.
fantasy.
Start time really got you.
It did, honestly. I thought it was a 3 p.m. start for some reason, even though it's Talladega. So, of course, it's going to start at 2. I completely forgot. And so I had the same lineup that I had last week. Didn't get any bonus points from picking any of the driver head-to-heads, and I still beat them. So,
yeah, it was tough because
I don't think it was particularly close either.
No, immediately at 2:01 when the lineups are closed.
Yeah.
I always look at his lineup just to see what we've got going on, the differences and similarities. And I had to refresh a couple times because I saw that it was the same as last week. I'm like, whoa, he picked like Kyle Busch and Christopher Bell on the super speedway. And then I looked at the bonus picks. So I'm like, I put 2 and 2 together. And I texted him. I'm like,
yep.
If I lose to a guy that can't use the bonus picks, then it's a bad look, and it was a bad look. So, double win for you on both the draft and the league fantasy. So, you have the choice once again, Kyle. You can go ahead and I don't know if you want to recap anything from last week with the points. But
I'll recap it quickly. I narrowly beat the field. I don't know if you saw it or looked at it, but I had 174.
I saw red,
and the field had 173 points. So I beat the field by 1 point. Chase Elliott being the big one, of course, with the race win, big stage points as well. Denny Hamlin being a good late round pick. Eric Jones being really solid at the end of my draft as well. Joey Logano surprisingly not being up there challenging for stage points. Of course, he was caught up in the early wreck and was
Imagine if I did the Blaney for Logano switch that you offered. Good Lord.
Oh, that would have been tasty. But
that would have been really ugly.
I don't know if you saw this as well, but my first overall pick, Bubba Wallace, I was shocked by
how
not involved they were. And
nowhere
I listened to Your Bumper Clear. Apparently they were trying to get up there. They just couldn't. So I don't know what went on with that team. But nowhere near their usual prowess on the super speedways. You had a great pick in Ryan Blaney. You had a good pick in Justin Haley, and we don't need to talk about the rest, I don't think.
No.
In terms of guys we missed,
it doesn't help when Brock Keselowski gets a speeding penalty on the last set of green flag stops either.
There's that. In terms of guys we missed on, the Trackhouse duo of Chastain and Suarez both had really solid days. Cindric up there with 35 points, McDowell with 34 points, and Kyle Larson picking up 30 points with a decent super speedway run for himself. And one last shout out to Landon Castle out there picking up stage points and finishing with 30 points in a Spire car. So
yeah,
gotta love me some
Landon Castle. Did see that. But you get to go again here, Kyle. Do you like to keep the first overall pick once again this weekend, or are you going to switch it up and make me do more effort and yourself do?
I want to give you the first overall pick. I will take the first overall pick because, like you said, I don't want to put that much effort into switching around all the graphics.
Yeah, okay, sweet.
So I'm taking the first overall pick.
That's a win for me.
Oh man, gotta love it. Alrighty.
We really do care, folks. We really do care.
We do. Yeah,
we do. Just
yeah.
on nights like this, it's
one of those days. Holy smoke. Anyways, first overall pick. Come on, I have to take it. Chase Elliott, right? Like as the first overall pick. Like I feel like I'm legally obligated on a road course to take Chase Elliott as the first overall pick. He has the most points accumulated on road courses this season. His track record at Charlotte speaks for itself. He's not going to go for stage points. I can't imagine being locked in already. So that might bite me because he might only miss on any stage points and go out and have an issue in the final stage and have a poor day in terms of points. But he's just too much to pass up on when you look at his value being so good at this track and so good on this track type season long, being the series leader on points accumulated on the road courses so far this year. So Chase Elliott has to be the first overall pick for myself.
I figured that was going to be the case. I didn't imagine you would let Chase Elliott slide to me.
There's no way I could give you Chase Elliott in the 2-3 wrap. So.
No, I respect your decision.
Thank you.
It is.
It's worse if you disrespected my pick.
So. No, not so what I meant. You know what I meant.
What you mean. I know what you mean. I'm just.
Don't do it. Don't do it to me.
I got to get you off your game going into these picks.
Well, why? Because I'm already off my game when I'm not frazzled. I know
it's great. So
it's not fair.
The frazzle picks are the best. So
God, the frazzle picks. Don't even get me started on the frazzle picks. Let me just make one quick. Okay, just making sure on one thing.
Okay.
Just had to check the entry list. Well,
why do you need to check what are you taking Mike Rockenfeller? Like
just checking. Seeing what sponsors are on the cars. So I'm a little super. No, I'm kidding. I
would completely believe that. So.
With the second overall pick for myself, I'm no doubt about it taking Tyler Reddick. Yep. Super fast on the road courses this season. Self-explanatory. They've been so good, and he hasn't been bad at the Roval either in his previous starts as well. So think that he could definitely be someone to watch out for this weekend. For my third selection, second selection, third overall, I will be taking Mr. Kyle Larson. Yep. I got to take the other Hendrick guy. Won at Watkins Glen, the most recent road course. Not really comparable to this track whatsoever, but nonetheless, I think that Larson could be a guy that gets consistent stage points, or if they don't, he can punt on the stage points and be in his position to get a good top 5 finish potentially at the end of this one. So I'm taking Larson and Reddick as my first 2 picks.
I like that. I mean, when you're talking about road course prowess, those are the 3 guys that we're talking about this year, right? Chase Elliott, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson. Those have been the 3 guys consistently at the front contending for wins and getting those race wins on road courses. 4th overall, I will play the stage point game, and I will take Austin Cindric with the 4th overall pick here. Really like Cindric on the road courses. He's finished top 10 in 4 out of the 5 road courses so far this year. The only one he hasn't is Watkins Glen. 3rd in the series in points accumulated on road courses so far this season. And factoring in the fact that they're at that cut line and need to go for stage points as well, I feel like they're a solid bet to at least have a handful of points going into that final stage, and we'll see where things go from there. But I really like Cindric's ability to accumulate a good point stay this weekend. So he's going to be my 4th overall pick. And 5th overall, you know what? Sometimes you got to look at the numbers this year. Sometimes you got to look at the numbers in the past as well. And there aren't many people that can say that they have a 100% top 10 finish record at a certain track. There are 3 guys that can say that at the Charlotte Roval. One of them is injured in Alex Bowman and not going on. But there are 2 of them that have a 100% record at the Charlotte Roval. And funny enough, it's Austin Cindric's 2 teammates at Penske. And I will be taking Ryan Blaney as my 5th overall pick for this one. I know.
I thought you were going Logano there. I was
teeing you up to maybe think that way. And look, Logano has been really solid on road courses. He's second in the series in points accumulated on road courses over his career. But I look at Ryan Blaney and I just feel better about his ability to go out and have a really solid day. Whether it's going out and going and whether it's going out and going for stage points, just having a solid finish. I feel like Logano is more likely to get caught up in some mayhem that could happen this weekend, given his aggressiveness on road courses and things like that. I think his numbers this season are also maybe pumped up a little bit because of a really solid Watkins Glen. He's only finished in the top 10 in 2 out of the 5 road courses versus Ryan Blaney, who's had a slightly better record, being 2 out of the 5 as well, but 2 of them being Coda and Sonoma early in the year, having a good run at Road America, those kind of things. So would also have a better record if it wasn't for that last lap or last restart incident at Indianapolis as well. So I will go 5th overall, the Penske duo of Cindric and Ryan Blaney.
Good selections. Can't argue those. The reason I checked the entry list, I was just making sure that my next pick is on the list.
Mike Rockenfeller.
AJ Allmendinger, basically the same name.
I wouldn't say so, but I mean, one's a German guy, so
long names, long last names,
okay.
Short first names. That's about the only similarity there is. But AJ Allmendinger is going to be my 3rd selection. Finished 2nd at Watkins Glen. Coming into a new Cup Series deal here when it's announced going into the weekend. Yep. Going to be out there to prove something. And, he's just so good at road courses, man. You cannot deny that ability. I think he'll go for the race win. I don't think he'll get it, but I think he'll be up there enough where he can get a good point, stay out of it. The one thing I do worry about, I do have concerns sometimes about Colleague, and they tend to have a mechanical failure sometimes on the road courses. Maybe a little bit more last year than this year, but they do have that from time to time where I feel like I have AJ and then he has some sort of thing and he's in the garage by like lap 30 and I'm like, well, that was fun. So AJ's my 3rd selection. 4th pick for myself. There's a lot. This is a crucial pick for me here.
It's a big pick.
This is a big pick. There's a lot of names here.
7th overall is where it can be won or lost when you think about the double.
When I think about what's coming at 9th overall, basically,
essentially,
what I'm leaving on the board for you to pick 9th is what scares me.
Can you imagine that you gave me the 9th overall pick in the first place, and that's why all this has happened? Do you believe that?
It's scary. It's really scary. It's voodoo, wizardry, and you know the rest.
Yep.
Damn.
But I'm
going to go with the guy that has been so consistent, and I just feel like he's having a career year. Michael McDowell.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that 34 car could have something up their sleeve this weekend, guy. Oh, man. I think they're going to be somebody that's just been so consistent. Finished 6th at Watkins Glen. I mean, he was up there right in the contention for it. So hard to dismiss Michael McDowell's abilities on the road courses. And going to kind of go with the road course ringers a little bit here for the Roval. So McDowell is my 4th selection.
All righty, the 8-9 wraparound. Leaving me a lot of good names on the board here, not going to lie. It's
if I could take more, I would. Don't act like this is my problem. I mean, I can only do so much with my 4 picks,
I'm just saying, you should take more drivers with your 4 picks. We don't have any rules. We don't have a CBA. I could take all the drivers if I wanted to.
Well, if that's it. No, kidding. Go ahead.
8th overall. I'm going to play the stage point game again. I will take Daniel Suarez with my 8th overall pick. Somebody like we talked about earlier that is in a situation where they should feel fairly comfortable, but not super comfortable. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I think there'll be a team that goes out for stage points. And also, I think people don't realize, but ranked 6th in the Cup Series in points accumulated on road courses this year, which actually is better than Ross Chastain. His teammate. And so Suarez obviously had the big day at Sonoma, but had another solid top 10 at Road America, had a really solid day at Watkins Glen. We talked about it earlier where his results at the Roval haven't been great, but last year with Trackhouse finished 13th, his career best at this track. And I think that they could have another really solid day, especially on the back of some good stage points. So we'll take Daniel Suarez 8th overall, and
Jesus.
9th. I don't think it's the race winner because I think the first overall pick is going to be the race winner.
Why do you spoil it though? We have another little thing we have to talk about after this.
Maybe I'm bluffing. You don't know that. He's too good at this track and has had too good of results this season to pass up on him. Even though I don't love the idea of taking everybody from one team, I'm taking Joey Logano with the 9th overall pick. Look, he has a perfect top 10 record at this track. They're second in the Cup Series in points accumulated on road courses this season. I don't know what they're going to do strategy-wise because they're in a pretty comfortable position. But I think that they could be a team that maybe looks to be more aggressive because of their points position, try to flip a couple of stages and be there at the end. And I think it could result in a really good finish for them. So we'll take Joey Logano with the 9th overall pick. Again, I don't love kind of falling backwards into taking every Penske driver. But I also think that this is one of their best tracks in terms of all 3 drivers having really good records at this track.
I'm getting deja vu from last year when we were all taking like the same like organization, like we did, like we didn't want to, like it felt like such like a curse.
Except, I don't know, we'd fall.
We couldn't take 4 guys from the same guy.
JGR or Hendrick.
Yeah, we were just like, it gives me bad vibes. We can't do it.
I mean, hey, if there's any mechanical issues, I'm probably screwed. So.
Yeah, if the Fords get the mechanical bug this time, yikes.
Where are you going 10th overall? Some good names still up there.
Yeah, I'm curious as to why you've left me Chase Briscoe, because you're making me think something's wrong with him. You know, like it's like the last guy to be picked at. You're like, whoa, hey.
Here, I'll talk it through. It's the fact that he's flipped stages so far this season, and hasn't finished in the top 10 once at a road course so far this year. I like their speed. I like their ability to finish up high in a stage. But overall, that strategy for them has them 14th in the Cup Series in points accumulated on road courses. It's worked well to get them some points, but I don't think it's necessarily the best way to go about getting the most points. So I think he's a safe pick to get you 20 to 30 points, but I'm not sure he's going to get you more than that. So that's why I went for some higher upside guys, just to talk it through.
No, I appreciate that. It helps my
anytime. I mean,
my brain fog right now.
I want some more competition, so anything I can do to help out.
Another guy that I'm looking at.
You want another free tip?
Sure.
Don't take Bubba Wallace this weekend.
Wow. I was just about to mention him. Chris Buescher was the other guy I was looking at.
Okay.
Been pretty competitive on the road courses this year. I wish I could say like he's going for his first win or something, or trying to get that win, but now that he's got it at Bristol, like that is just mitigated. Like it's just not a thing. So that's difficult to, try and say that he's going to go up there and have like that same kind of oomph to go win a race after he's got one now. I don't know what to think about Buescher, to be honest, but
I'm just going to interrupt because there's another name that we haven't really talked about.
Yes.
And that's a guy below the cut line.
Yeah.
William Byron as well, on a really solid team. Haven't been great on road courses so far this year, but that's a team that could be going for big points day as well.
Yep. I'm going to go Chris Buescher.
I like that pick. Really thought about him.
Just because when you're in a desperation scenario like Byron could be, let's just say that they don't get the appeal, -11, it usually presents more problems than solutions. That is fact by my own memory. So from what I've remembered, when you're playing below the cutoff line going into the Roval, it is very difficult to dig yourself.
Too volatile. Yeah.
Too much to dig yourself out of. And 11 points is no slouch. It's quite a bit going into a road course. You could go out there, get the most points. You could go out there and have 1 point. If this was a 1.5 miles and it was a little bit more straightforward, I say after Texas, but 1.5 miles where you can.
I was going to say 1.5 miles seems like the most dangerous place now. Try and think about
like, usually you can maybe try and get like 17, 16 stage points. That's very difficult to do on the road courses, depending on how cautions fall, whatever the case may be. That could really impact if like, let's just say, there's a caution with 3 to go on a stage, they're not getting back going again. So, there's a situation where the guys that are out front, they're not going to flip the stage, get those stage points too. So I'm going to base it off of a little bit more speed, calculated speed from what I've seen so far this year, and overall execution. Chris Buescher's been pretty good at getting the car to the finish, and he hasn't been too bad over his past results of the Roval, and they've improved so far this season.
Mhm.
So I put 2 and 2 together, or 1 and 1 together, and
some number of combinations together.
Yeah, Chris Buescher is going to be somebody that could give me a nice points day.
17 and 17 together.
Yes.
Hey, if you want a nice little tidbit for you, he was the highest remaining driver in terms of points accumulated on road courses this year, still undrafted. So there you go.
I like it. I like it a lot. I want to go through our selections one more time, Kyle, and then we'll give our winner picks, and then we'll wrap it up for another week.
Alrighty, led things off with Chase Elliott with the first overall pick. Then went Penske back-to-back with 4 and 5 taking Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney, and rounded out my lineup with the 8-9 taking Daniel Suarez, and clean sweeping the Penske trio taking Joey Logano 9th overall.
Praying for a little bit of a better week this week for me. Please, just a little bit. Make it competitive. Let's just have a conversation about it next week where I don't feel like I'm like in your shadow and I can't like have anything
where you don't reluctantly throw to the segment. Yeah.
Yes. So I started off with Tyler Reddick and Kyle Larson in the 2-3.
Formidable duo.
I hope so. I like to think so, but my luck, who knows? After that, AJ Allmendinger and Michael McDowell went the road course ringers for my next 2 selections, and then rounded it out with a guy that has definitely impressed me so far this season on the road courses. And overall, really, Chris Buescher rounds out my lineup for the Charlotte Roval. You going with Chase Elliott? Is that what we're thinking? Or are you bluffing me?
I am going Chase Elliott for the race win, and here's why. Very good, arguably the best road course racer in the series. Most points accumulated with this new car at this track type this season. And most importantly, of the playoff guys, who of course you would assume are 12 of the best drivers in the field. So the best candidates to go out and win for the most part, especially including the 18 car. Chase Elliott is locked in to the next round. He can flip the stages without worry, and he can set himself up best for the final stage, which is why I think also on the Saturday, AJ Allmendinger is going to be the winner of that race as well. Although I am very excited to see James Davison back in that JGR car. That's going to be a lot of fun on the Saturday as well. But I think Chase Elliott is going to be the man to beat on Sunday, and I think he goes back-to-back and gets it done.
Bold take. Thanks for that. No, I'm kidding. It was good analysis. He is definitely
exactly. I'm trying to give you a little bit more than just Chase Elliott wins on a road course. It's not just Chase Elliott.
I appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Joey Hand wins. Are you happy?
I was legitimately giving you a compliment.
I'm kidding.
For myself.
Do one of your 4 non-playoff drivers win?
Do I have 4?
Yeah. Reddick, Allmendinger, McDowell, Buescher.
Didn't think about that. You took them all. You took all the playoff guys.
I think I did actually. Yeah.
But you know what? I'm gonna say we get our 20th different winner. Michael McDowell wins the Charlotte.
Yeah. I'm into that.
For front row. I'm gonna say that we get there, man, and we go 5 for 6 in the playoffs with non-playoff guys winning. I hope that's the case because my lineup is full of them. So,
bold strategy. I don't think you're going to get many stage points. I'll just put it that way.
I would love it if we see a non-playoff guy like that win. I want to break the record. Like at this point, break the record. Come on.
I think we do. Hey, I said it earlier. I think we get to 21. So
we're running out of races. It's getting closer to crunch time.
I still think we get to 21.
Hey, I'm here for 20. I don't know about 21. I think we do get 20 though. Whether that's Ryan Blaney, Martin Truex Jr., Michael McDowell.
That's why I think Blaney gets one, and I think somebody else gets one.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, especially when the guy's going to win at Phoenix and it's a non-playoff guy. No, we'll see what happens. Any final thoughts to wrap up our Charlotte Roval preview?
Our Charvel. I like it. Just Charlotte Roval, just combine it.
All right.
I mean, we combine road course and oval, so why not just combine it all and get the name in there? I like it. Charvel. I like it. That'll be our
like a sharpener.
That'll be our second merch drop after Out to Toast. So.
Sure.
Oh, can you tell we're off the rails at the end of these shows? Oh my God.
Man.
Nothing really to add to the show. I think it'll be a fun race this weekend. I think the road course stuff has been pretty solid season long. Excited to see how it goes this weekend with playoff implications, stuff like that. And the only other thing I have to add is non-NASCAR stuff because that's who I am. Bathurst 1000 coming up this weekend. Can't wait for that to ruin my sleep schedule. Going to be a really fun race. Maybe Van Gisbergen goes out and wins that and comes to NASCAR next year. We'll see about that. There's been some rumors that he might do some of the Trackhouse Project 91 stuff, which I would absolutely love to see. The only caveat being that Scott McLaughlin has to run a fourth Penske car when Van Gisbergen runs a race. And then other than that, just a shout out to Cali Rovanpera going out and winning the WRC championship at 22 years old and one day beating the previous youngest champion, Colin McRae, by a whopping 5.5 years. He is one of the brightest talents in all of racing, and I can't wait to see how his career progresses. Very, very underrated driver. So that's my little niche stuff for the end of the episode.
One final question.
Okay.
Does the playoffs standings change at all after the Roval? Does anybody below the cutoff line switch?
Yes.
Cindric?
Yeah.
Briscoe out?
I think Cindric and Briscoe out. Yeah. I think both get similar amount of stage points, but I have more faith in Cindric.
Hamlin will be pretty darn close to that cutoff line. I'll say that. I think it'll be close.
What's your over under?
I'm going to say he is 5 points above the cutoff line.
Okay.
I think he'll be stressful. I think he'll leave with that white fire suit not looking so white.
I mean, Noah Gragson is in the race, so we know at least one of those will be.
Let's hope it's not too close between those two.
Yeah, no, it should be.
I agree with you on Cindric bumping up. I think Briscoe falls out.
Wouldn't it be something if Hamlin does fall out and not a single JGR car advances to the round of 8?
Payback.
Payback for what?
Sweet redemption.
It's okay. The car that he's going to, both of them were eliminated in the first round, so it's not like he's going to a better situation.
They're winning races, all right? Stop it.
You're saying when they're already eliminated.
For my fun fact of the episode, or little ramble, if you will, Max Verstappen is going to win the Formula One World Drivers' Championship this weekend at the Japanese Grand Prix. I think he does it. Whether he wins the race, maybe not get the fastest lap, but if he does get the fastest lap, then he's got it. But if he doesn't get the fastest lap, I still think that he can find a way and seal his second championship. I'm looking forward to waking up at 1 a.m. for that on Saturday night.
Waking up? Not staying up, or you're going to wake up?
No, stay up.
I was going to say, that's an aggressive strategy.
I have to stay up, but 2 a.m. qualifying. Oh, yeah. That might be something.
Gotta get the dual screen set up with Bathurst going on. Come on.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do a little live stream or something. No, but
it's going to be a fun race.
Just wanted to give Max Verstappen a little bit of a shout out here to conclude the episode, whether he does it this weekend or the weekend after that.
That's a guy that needs more publicity. Am I right?
I think it's pretty impressive what he's done this year. All right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, winning in the fastest car is real tough.
Oh boy, this is.
I'm just being a jackass.
Hey, we're good. We're all good. It's been a great episode.
It has been.
And thank you very much for all watching, subscribing, liking our content the past couple of weeks. We really, really appreciate it. Make sure to comment down in the comment section below who you think is going to be going out at the Roval this weekend, and we will see what happens after what will be no doubt a fun race, and we'll see how the road course package handles at the unknown of the Charlotte Roval. But for this episode, I've been Lucas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. For those who celebrate, have a very happy Thanksgiving weekend. And
the real Thanksgiving.
Yes.
For all the American listeners.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But we will talk to you next week to tee up the round of 8 and maybe talk about a Formula One championship that has been sealed. We will see, but we will talk to you next week, everybody. Enjoy the races this weekend.